What's up, everyone? I'm here to do a review on the latest chapter of Claymore that was just released, 154. It's titled Strength and Heart, and I am actually quite astounded because when I just reviewed Toriko this week, I was like, none of the other manga, save Hunter x Hunter, can top the manga of this week. Um, and and so basically, I was saying Toriko was the best manga that week, and then I read Claymore, and I'm like, I would say this is possibly even better than Toriko this week, and I don't think HXH is out this week, so it's hiatus x hiatus. If you guys don't know what's going on with that, the author is sick, but anyhow. Let's get on with it. I actually thought this was a great Great chapter. The chapter before was amazing, with the whole wings that sprouted. I mean, the awakened form itself was just amazing. Um, so her awakened form, Teresa's awakened form, ultimately, and one can argue this isn't her true awakened form. Her true awakened form. What I mean by this is, before she died and was then taken up by Claire, she would probably, in my opinion, she was just a normal Claymore, strongest number one, but still Claymore. She probably would turn into just some monstrosity. Um, this special awakened form, and again, there's some blurred lines. We haven't fully determined exactly what's going on, but from what I can tell, this is her awakened form because she has been taken up by Claire. She's technically dead, so this is somehow her. I guess she's alive still somehow through the flesh that was taken up through Claire. Who knows if it's truly her or just a ghost of her? I think it's truly her because I like to do that sort of good guy stuff, but most people do. And so ultimately, what is this? She's basically in a winged form, which represents that those sort of winged beasts that pretty much have been a huge sort of theme throughout this whole manga series. In the short 154 chapters of Claymore so far, it is one of the themes, and it's like, wow, who would have thought the author would incorporate it? I mean, it's common sense looking back in hindsight, but it's like, that's pretty awesome to incorporate the actual real wings this time and make it their awakened form. So here's where it gets confusing. Um, so we've got Claire, and initially I thought that Claire awakened when Teresa came out, but now it looks like, oh no, that's not true. Teresa is now awakening herself, and therefore this is both of their awakened forms. So one could argue that Teresa coming out had nothing to do with awakening. I think potentially it means that it's a twofold awakening, somewhat like what happened in Digimon and Pokemon, where when the first second evolution of a Pokemon occurred from Charizard to Charmeleon, and then all of a sudden, hey, it doesn't end there, Charizard. And it makes sense because this is a non-conventional, unorthodox way of making claymores. Claire is unique, and I feel like the whole purpose of this island that they're in is finding new ways to achieve the ultimate soldier for war against these dragons, which I think is going to be the next arc, and who knows what could potentially happen. It seems like the war is pretty evenly matched, but the author can do anything after this arc ends, which it will end very soon. They could, like, first off, they just released a dragon on this island. It was like, strung up and tortured, but they just, like, I believe it was Claire, she literally just released it and then forgot about it. Those things could potentially, like, they could potentially make them stronger than even Teresa in this chapter is. I mean, that seems like the next step that I would like it to go. We don't want it to go downhill and the next enemies in the next arc to be weaker. That never happens. How much stronger really makes makes the difference of how more interesting the future will be. Um, and so I want to remark on this strange thing. So the blind girl, I forgot her name. The blind girl's like questioning what Teresa's awakened form looks like out of curiosity, and I don't know what it is. It's either that this blind girl saw the auras and then she saw Claire and Teresa standing there in the formation of the of how those goddesses look like, um, of those twin goddesses, or perhaps somehow Claire appeared to all of them. I feel like it was the former. This blind girl potentially saw the auras like Neo in the third Matrix, and then she saw, hey, there's Claire, there's Teresa, and they're both parts of the wings, just like the twin goddesses. Very, very cool, in my opinion. And so I just, first off, I think the wings are very well drawn. It's not just, typical angel wings. There's like smaller ones underneath. It really works well with like her whole outfit, in fact. And I would like to remark on one thing. Um, when it was explained to this blind girl, it was explained in this way. There are huge wing-like things on her back. Aside from that, she's almost entirely still in human form. That's not completely true, and it's easy to tell. If you look at her legs, first off, there seems to be like some sort of cracks running through each of her legs in like a circularly through her legs, and then the inner sides of her legs have like this red cracked stuff, potentially some sort of adaptation that makes her faster. From a physics perspective, there's no way. Like the wings too bulky, probably would hinder her. The legs too, it really has no true advantage aerodynamically. But hey, it's a manga, and so I'm only on the fourth page, and it just looks amazing. As soon as she strikes, and I believe what's occurred here is that Priscilla has also awakened. Like, okay, Priscilla was already awakened, but it seems like she has now awakened a second time, or simply evolved to a next level form because of her hatred, and because she just keeps getting cut up and adapting and growing stronger each time she gets cut up to this monstrosity form. And yet, as soon as the first time we see Teresa attack, boom, Priscilla gets cut into pieces immediately. Dozens and dozens of pieces. And I just, I very much like the whole idea of Teresa. She's just, she has a faint smile, but more than that, her personality, like, just look at her in this panel, just so calm, and like, this whole idea of, don't worry about it, I got this, done. It's like, I'll have this settled. Like, no amount of fear or anything. And I think that truly should be how Teresa is. And it would concern me a great deal if she was ever scared or fearful at this point in time, because it's such a precarious time. And it's like, if she's even a little bit scared, it's like they're all dead, because she's not sure if she can win. But she just demonstrates utmost confidence and assuredness throughout, and the fight ensues, and then we see a new form of Priscilla yet again. So basically, from all the mush of her being cut up, sprouts basically this enormous form of Priscilla, like a giant, and it's not well defined. And then Teresa, amazing as she is like, bigger isn't always better when it comes to awakened forms, which is like, whoa, she's right. And then she, you see this part where I just thought was quite, interesting. You see her skin break up and then like flake off, and then you see, like, I guess the muscle underneath, And it's funny how they do it in Claymore. It's like they don't abide by human biology really, but basically she they depict the human skin literally like flakes, and it flakes off of one of her arms. The arm she's holding her claymore, and basically she did that so that she can now be very more flexible, and she just literally starts spinning her arm like a screwdriver and cuts through this giant Priscilla. And in my opinion, it just gets more awesome from here. She uses drill sword. She uses a bunch of techniques and just keeps slicing up Priscilla into tiny, tiny pieces. And it's just, I think it's very well drawn. I mean, I'm looking at this panel, and it's literally Priscilla's butt cheeks getting all cut up into little pieces. But more so than that, it's like this scene in this chapter really epitomizes everything that's happened, because she is now Teresa is now adapting almost all the techniques of Claire's allies and combining them. She's using wind cutter, extendable arms, and they can't even keep up. They can't even understand what she's doing. They're just like, what did she do? I can't understand it at all. She's just destroying. And like I already saw the bigger picture, but Teresa explains it, although in a more poetic, abstract way. But long story short, Teresa has learned all these techniques through Claire's memories of her allies, and she's incorporated all of them all together to fight Priscilla, and she's giving credit to Claire for meeting all these friends and going through all these adventures, and the allies as well. Again, it begs the question, like, at this point, what will happen in the future? Like, it doesn't look like Claymore's going to end here at all, and yet you've now, like, that's one of the things manga authors have to keep in mind. It's like, you can't just keep going and getting bigger and bigger, unless you know how to surprise the reader time and time again by doing it 10 times that in the future. And that begs the question, of course, okay, how are you going to top this? How are you going to top the power level right now of Teresa in the next arc, when this gal can literally do all this crazy stuff? She's literally incorporating and merging and innovating all the techniques, almost all the techniques of all the allies, of the strong characters that we have met. And obviously she's like the strongest person in the universe so far. So how is that going to happen? I feel like it may be one of those scenarios where it's like, she will never be seen again, and then we're just going to start over with these weak characters like Claire. Maybe Teresa will never ever come out of Claire again. And we do get a hinting of that when Teresa in this chapter says, this final ultimate technique can only be used one time because of the fragility of Claire and this arm. But at the same time, it's like, you have to go up from here. How is the author going to do it in the future? I think he can still do it, but it's now somewhat difficult. Let me know in the comments what you think about that. More so than that, though, we finally get to a point in this chapter where now it's almost like poetic. Teresa has figuratively and literally ripped away all the crap, and you see a naked Priscilla underneath, just standing there. She's like, Priscilla's like, just kill me, help me, please. And immediately, slash, her head gets cut off through the middle, like through the nose with the sword. And then you're like, okay, is she dead? Nope. 4 more Priscillas emerge with their own claymores out of all the rubble. And it's like they're still going on and on. And then you see you start seeing Priscilla explain her thing, and you're like, or at least I was like, holy crap, this isn't. You really start understanding that, hey, Priscilla isn't all bad. And just to summarize real quick, she's basically saying how she tried to stab herself and absorb people and go to the strongest enemies in order to end her own life because um, basically the part of her that was still Claymore, I guess, felt guilt for becoming an awakened being, and for some reason, like that's part of her took control. And so finally, I think Teresa was just like amazing. She's like, "Hey, I came here to fulfill your wish. Don't worry about it." And I'm just like, wow, because like a lot of our people would be like, "I'll try my best." Like Nichiro from Hunter x Hunter would probably been like, "Hey, I'll try my best. I don't know. I'm strong, but I don't know if I can do it. I'll try my best." But Teresa's like, "Hey, don't worry. I got it. I came here to finish unfinished business. Didn't I? I told you that." And so finally, she brings up that thing about how this technique can only be used once. It'll put a strain on Claire's body and this arm and so forth. But it'll be quite a technique. And basically, they don't show the actual thing, but it seems like she's using the wind cutter arm with her general strength and foundation as a really strong number one, the strongest number one. And so I just found it quite, amazing. It's like Teresa realizes, like, the next few pages are just like Teresa realizing, hey, you weren't really in the wrong. Like, hey, you were Claymore. We were both on the same side. I did something wrong. It wasn't your fault. You were a little, like, I felt like Priscilla was a little rash and cocky and I guess emotional and arrogant and angry to pursue Teresa at her young stage, which cost her because she awakened. And then Teresa was also stupid for dying and being caught off guard. But here they are again at this point, and heck, some would say if Priscilla didn't turn, she could have been just an even stronger number one. In fact, I definitely think she would have been than Teresa. Then other people argue, well, technically, Priscilla has awakened to her fullest strength by turning into an awakened being. So, because Teresa has now beaten Priscilla, Teresa would have still been the strongest number one. That's an argument for a whole nother video. But it is, interesting to see how it's going, and I do think it's clear that, like, hey, they both realized they did stupid stuff. Like, Teresa shouldn't have died. They were a little rash, but they were both on the same side, more or less, and it wasn't completely their fault. And just to quote what Teresa's saying to illustrate, she's like, yeah, sorry about last time. This time I'll send you off properly. And Priscilla's pretty much just like, thanks. And then they start fighting again, trying to kill each other. And then she says something which was a shocker. She says to Priscilla, "You supported Claire up until now. I thank you considerably." Perhaps she wasn't talking about to Priscilla. Maybe she was talking to Irene. But then we don't actually see her technique. We see her like move her sword and like a silhouette of her, but we don't see what exactly she did. And then we see 2 pages of dark panels and flashback narration, and I believe it was Priscilla as a child and what she did, which was pretty much, if you guys don't know, you should know. She was locked into the house with the Yoma. She somehow survived, killed the Yoma, and then ate the Yoma, who was her dad, to survive and prevent starvation. And that sort of emotional trauma caused her to be one of the strongest Claymores to begin with. And also made her a different type of Claymore than the typical types, who are half Yoma. And so finally, we see now 5 of them surrounding her, but now it's like their swords are still drawn and stuff, but it looks like the battle's over. You know, it always happens if you've seen enough fights or films, action films, or just anime. They do a bunch of stuff and then they pass each other, and then the swords are still held, and then you're just standing there, and then a few moments later, like one of them gets sliced to pieces. And so finally, Teresa, and this part's really cool. Teresa's like explaining to Priscilla, which we already know, that she could have finished this girl off in her weakened state, but she didn't because she wanted a fair battle and yada yada yada, and she wanted her to die knowing what is going on, and she's like, hey, from experience, I know how much it sucks to die without knowing what's going on, because if you guys don't know, at the very beginning, Teresa got blindsided and she got a surprise attack and she got killed before she knew what she was doing. And I thought it was pretty cool, you know. Priscilla dies and says thank you and sorry, which is amazing. And then she says something here which I don't think I remember reading. What I really hated from was the me from that time. What I really wanted to destroy was myself. And again, the onlookers are stupid as heck, or some of them, and they're like, oh, what is she saying? If she's going to do it, now's her chance, isn't she? It's like, haven't you realized at this point that Teresa's had multiple chances to kill this girl if she wanted to? Which again demonstrates her strength, and she hasn't. And so it ends, and then she's like, she says something which I think is very amazing and works perfectly with her personality and very well translated. She says, it's fine. There are no hard feelings between comrades that cross claymores together. Which just demonstrates, hey, we're of the same blood. Don't worry about it. It's chill. And that's it. And it ends. And we'll see what goes from there. And the arc's about to end. Teresa's probably going to leave. I'm excited for the dragon arc. This has gone on far enough. As always, like, favorite, comment, subscribe, and let me know if you watched this whole video. I'd be really appreciative if you did, because I put a lot of time into this. And I know a lot of people just watch the first minute and leave, which is crappy. But hey, thanks for watching. See you guys later in my next video.